Welcome to Curated by Culture. I'm your curator, Cassandra. Thank you as always for joining me. First things first, how's your head? How's your heart? Um, though I am physically well and I have everything I could possibly need, so I'm blessed, my head and my heart are not good. So, as I'm saying that to you, I'm reminding myself to check in with myself. So, after I'm done, I'm gonna go ahead and do some woosah time. Um, I have I've had a rough couple of weeks. Anyway, I'm not gonna get into it. Um, I was just on the phone with a friend of mine. A friend of mine just called me because he said he could sense that I wasn't doing okay. So he wanted to call me and maybe switch the subject because if anybody calls me these days, I got one conversation for them. And so he's talking about this woman that he's interested in. So I'll start this by saying he's 49 years old and he is a lifelong bachelor. He's never been married. He's always just kind of dated. He does have two kids. But he's never been married because he always says he couldn't find the right woman. Like he feels highly of himself, which I mean he thinks highly of himself, which I guess we all should. So he's kind of like, when the right one comes along, I will. And still to this day, I say when. And so we were talking about that, and he was talking about black love. Like he's like, I'm waiting for that black love type of situation. And I was like, when you say black love, like tell me what you mean. And he started naming couples and all these other people, all these people like Barack and Michelle, or I forgot the names he gave me because I was just kind of like, mm. And so he asked me why I didn't feel the same as him when it came to black love. And I explained, like, my thoughts on black love are really black people as a whole. Um, sure, the love between a man and a woman can be considered to be black love, but when people say the words black love, I really think we should think about them from a different standpoint. I think we should look at them as black people as a whole, like the love that black people give. I've talked about this before. I think it was love one another. I think I'd shared that clip from Queens. It was like the 70s, maybe, where there were some kids who went into a different part of town where there were a lot of white people and they ran them and chased them out and they were throwing rocks at them and spitting. And one of the girls said to the cameraman, like, I hate them or something like that. I think she might have said, I wish they were dead. And her sister or her friend says, no, you don't. You're just angry. And I said, wow, like black people are inherently loving people. And I really do mean that. This has been the same since the beginning of time. You think about, the black women who had to take care of their households and I don't want to say the master's household, but their the oppressor's household or the colonizer's household, or yeah, is the colonizer? Well, colonizer to the country, but oppressor, whatever. I don't want to say the slave master because I will not use that terminology. But I think about that and how they had to love their own kids, but also love another person's kids that weren't theirs, who, their parents hated them, or how they had to love random people's kids because women and men back then were getting killed for no reason. And so when you stop and, you kind of look at it from that point, you're like, yeah, black people really are loving people. Because even to this day, if we really wanted to, we could blow this whole thing up, right? There are enough of us to say we've had enough, but we don't. We might argue and we might kick and scream and we might yell, but still, at the core of who we are loving people. And as we were having this discussion, he was just like, yeah, but it's not like that anymore. And he's right. Like, it has changed. It has gone from the Nat Turners and the Harriet Tubmans of the world to everyone's in their own little world, or it's like me, everybody's me. And I blame a lot of that on social media. I really do, because I think of a time, I think about even myself in the 90s going to school, in high school. Shout out to my Rough Riders, West Side High School. My hair is an ode to Miss Graham. If you know, you know. I remember Miss Graham, speaking of, I was really, sidebar, I was a really reckless teenager. Like, I did not want to listen to reason. I didn't want to listen to my parents. I didn't want to listen to teachers. But I was also really smart. So I got through high school very easy. Like I came from a Catholic high school, Catholic elementary school to a high school in Newark, New Jersey, where, they were kind of learning the stuff we learned in like sixth, seventh grade. So I kind of skated by. It was too easy for me. There was no challenge. So of course I ran the streets and did all these other things. But Miss Graham, who was I think she was my sophomore English teacher, I remember one year saying something like Happy Thanksgiving. It was like Thanksgiving break, and ironically, Thanksgiving is right here. But I said Happy Thanksgiving to her, and she was like, I don't celebrate that or whatever. She pulled me to the side and she explained to me what Thanksgiving was. And she literally said to me, and make sure you tell your little friends too. And I don't think I told my friends, but I did go home and tell my family. And, I'm like 15 years old, 16 years old. I'm telling my family this. They're like, yeah, we still celebrate Thanksgiving, of course. But that's not the point. The point is she, she had the love in her heart to tell me what happened to the Native Americans. Sidebar again, she did not call them Native Americans. She called them Indians, but that was like 1995. So, 94, 93 or something like that. So give her grace. But it was that thought of, Black love, or the idea of Black people and other people and how we viewed other people and how we were with other people. I think about when my parents, growing up in Brooklyn, we lived in a very diverse neighborhood and we got along with everybody, but everybody loved the Black people in those neighborhoods. And then when we moved to Newark, it was kind of the same thing. We lived next door to Polish people. We went to school with Russians. We went to school with Filipinos. And so it was, there was always that love between us. I never what I see nowadays. Of course, racism is always there, but it's usually the same group of people being racist, right? And then as far as them being racist towards us, it's because of what has been portrayed of us on the news, in the media, and stuff like that. There was always a bad stereotype, but we knew who we were, or we know who we are still to this day. And so when I look at love and I think of the term Black love, I really wish we phrased it in a different way when we're talking about love between a man and a woman, because Black love is so much greater. Like my version of it anyway. It's it's that moment when you're in a foreign country and you see another Black person. It's the love we give each other when we see each other in the streets, and you have on a cute polka dot skirt and they're like, hey, polka dots, or love that, come on here, or something like that. That's Black love to me. I was at a, a barbecue over the summer, cookout, whatever, over the summer, and I'm an observer. Again, I'm so much with the sidebars tonight. I'm an observer, and I went by myself. It was a friend of mine, and the parents, the couples that came with their kids, they kind of split up the duties. Moms went their way, dads went their way. Everybody was having a good time. The moms who came by themselves with kids, same kind of thing. The moms came, they told the kids what to do, not to do. Go ahead and play, but come back at this time and eat and make sure. And they kept checking on them throughout the night. And then there was like a small handful of men who came with no help, and they each had one or two kids. And for the most part, most of the kids were older, but there were like two guys who had little kids. And they came in and they acted shy and they were like, oh, hey, I'm this. And then they had their kids and they kind of introduced their kids. And once the kids took off running to play, they took off too. They never once again checked on these kids. And I'm paying attention, mind you. One of them, I didn't even know he had a child because he had been like just chilling for like 2 hours and never said a word. Like he never stopped and said, hey, let me go check on Junior or anything like that. So it was weird. But at some point, I remember thinking, whose children are these? Because all the other kids were taken care of or cared for or fed or whatever the case might be. But these two kids, they were two different kids, two different dads, were fed and taken to the bathroom and told to behave, but by the women. The women all collectively just started taking care of this child. And I could say that is just maternal, but I have been around other women, the Clears, and it's not. They only care for their kids. They don't care for each other's kids. They kind of actually stand in judgment at times. And maybe in our minds we stand in judgment, but overall, we will take care of anyone's kids. Black moms. Yes. But that's a form of Black love. And so when I think about how we have, you know, used the term black love to only be between a husband and a wife, or a couple, should I say, it bothers me because black love is so much greater than that. Black love is the love we as a people have for other people. Like I said, if we wanted to, we can burn this whole thing down, but we always choose not to because we are so filled with love. You've seen stories of people killing innocent black children and the parents forgiving them. That's not something regular people can do. Most people seek vengeance. They're like, oh no, I mean, I need to retaliate. Black people, we'll either just give it up to God and, well, I don't want to say we move on. Of course, we mourn and we grieve. And of course, there's always going to be that sadness. We're human. But overall, we are an inherently loving people. And when I say black and brown because I've seen other cultures who are also discriminated and hated against, in this country and others be the same way. That is a unique something in my mind, in my opinion. And I think we should really pay attention to it, embrace it in that way, embrace the term black love in a way that just doesn't signify between a couple. Because even that, let's be honest, I'm not, I'm not going to get into that right now. It's not the topic. But I don't know. And that was a discussion. Like, it was just kind of like the idea of black love, and for me, how I view it and how I see black people, and how we are in the world, how we are towards each other. And I think, to further my point, I think with the whole social media thing and how we've kind of strayed away from that is because it's being pushed on us to stray away from that. It's being pushed on us not to see each other in that light anymore. It's being pushed on us to get more, make more, have more. So now we're looking at each other as competition instead of, hey, brother, hey, sister. I talk about this all the time, how I only want to support Black people. I try to anyway. I only try to always support Black people first. And listen, being pro-Black does not mean I am anti-white. It just means that I'm for my people, just like other cultures are. You know, Jewish people are like that. Chinese people, Asian people. Let me say Chinese. Asian people are like that. Italians. I mean, other countries, they're like that with each other. And I want to see us like that. So when we use the term black love, I don't want it to mean between two people and a couple in a relationship. I want us to start reframing black love as us as a community. Like, we are a community. We should be loving on each other. We should not be tearing each other down. Social media has really taken away our capacity to love each other. It's really done this thing where you're like, it's hard to explain, but back when there was no social media and, you know, Black people had to gather, I think about like the Black Panther Party and how that movement worked and how communities were being built, or any, you know, liberation, freedom type group. You know, you have the, what are the other group? There's another one in New York. I think they were mostly Puerto Rican or Hispanic. I don't know. Anyway, Black and brown, like I said, there were always groups who were for the community, for each other. And we no longer have that. There's no Black Panther movement. I mean, sad to say, like, even Black Lives Matter, that turned out to be just, I don't even want to talk negatively about it, but that just turned out to be a mess. And I think, again, a lot of that has to do with society today, culture today, social media, which is a newer thing. I think we need to figure out a way to get back to that Black love that we once had and really own it. Like, we really need to own it. We need to, I mean, it's needed more than ever right now. So that's my thoughts on Black love. I can go down a rabbit hole and I don't want to, because I have another part to this that I really feel like is more important. I was on TikTok and I had seen a little clip from Umar Johnson, and I won't call him Dr. Umar because I don't know that he's an actual doctor. Like, what's his PhD in? Do y'all know? I guess it's kind of like a hot topic, but it's kind of part two of this whole conversation. And he was talking about what's going on right now. So if you're not paying attention again, there is a lot going on in the world, but Palestine being the biggest kind of, I don't want to say it's the biggest because I think Congo's pretty big, Sudan's pretty big. I mean, all of our struggles are big, right? But somebody must have said to him something about standing up or supporting Palestinians. And he was like, listen, I'm sorry for them, but I'm a Pan-African, and I have my own we have our own struggles, me and my people, we have our own struggles, so we can't be involved in that and all this other stuff. And he went down a rabbit hole of just inaccuracies regarding the Palestinians. He said something like, well, where were they when we were, where have they been and where were they? First of all, sir, they don't have much. They don't have a lot. They live in an open air concentration camp. So they are blocked in, they can't leave. They kind of have to rely on aid. And during the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020, Palestinians hit the streets. They were protesting with us. They were sharing tips on how to avoid tear gas because this is something that's been happening to them for 75 years. And for him to make such an ignorant statement, and then for me to see over, I want to say they were like at least 10 to 15,000 comments, like, yeah, me too. Say this is the same type of energy I'm on. I was blown away. And then I was sad. I was like, wait a minute. And I even made a video on my TikTok if you want to go see. I recorded myself, which I don't like to do, but I just had to step in. I had to interject. It's on my Curated by Culture TikTok, by the way. And I had to share that, despite having nothing, Palestinians used what little resources they had, and they drew a mural of him. Again, they have no resources. And so when he said that and made that ignorant statement and those people were in there, I thought about, like, where's our love? Like, their oppressors are our oppressors. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they have the same problems we have. They're not different. So for us to support them is almost like freeing ourselves in a way, right? Sure, there's always going to be cops. There's always going to be maggots. There's always going to be the KKK. There's always going to be the racists of this country and other countries. Racism is maybe always going to be alive and well because most people don't really know who we are, right? They only know what they think of us by what media and TV and the news has portrayed of us. But that's all the more reason for us to be who we are. We are love. Black people are love. And that comment bothered me to no end because he was like, I'm a Pan-Africanist, or he's Pan-African, or whatever the term was. So I had to research for him because he's kind of a moron. So Huey Newton, who was part of the Black Panther Party, has gone on record as saying, we support the Palestinian struggle for liberation 100%. We will go on doing this, and we would like for all of the progressive people of the world to join in our ranks in order to make a world in which all people can live. Malcolm X has said, the Palestinian struggle is not just a cry for justice, it's a blistering battle for the most fundamental human rights that every living soul on this planet should inherit by birthright. That was read poorly. I'm sorry. I was trying to be all like, and it went the wrong way. Anyway, you get the point. Nelson Mandela. We identify with the PLO because just like ourselves, they are fighting for the right of self-determination. He also said, we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. You can go on and search Muhammad Ali, Dr. Kwame Ture, Mahatma Gandhi, John Lennon. There were so many people who have talked. I don't know why I added John Lennon because he's not Black, but that's not the point. But there's so many Pan-Africanists, Black nationalists, all of them have talked about the need for Palestine. So to hold on to the thought process that Palestinians, that's not your problem, you'd be so wrong. And I hope anybody that would have agreed with his statement can listen to this and say, you know what, she might be right. I'm not, no disrespect to Umar Johnson. I don't know him well enough to know his thoughts and his ideologies, his life. I don't know where he's been, and I don't know why he feels that way. But to think that as a human being, let alone not just being Black, but as a human being, you shouldn't stand up for someone else because they didn't stand up for you. That's the most moronic statement I've ever heard. Seriously. We are all human beings on this planet. We only have one thing in common: skin, blood, bones. That's it. Outside of that, everything else is different. We should absolutely want to stand up and stand with anyone that's being oppressed. let alone when we share an oppressor. Like, that's even more reason why we should all be standing. And for him to make statements like that, and for that at least to be 15 to 20, maybe it was even higher, I don't remember. But for there to be any amount of people who agree with that, it's just mind blowing to me. And if you think that it's not your problem, guess again. There is a facility being built. Hopefully it doesn't get built, but it's in Atlanta. If you haven't heard of it, it's called Cop City. It, I believe, so far has been like $90 million has been invested in this. And the IDF soldiers, which are the soldiers in Israel, are going to be the people doing the training. So when you make comments like that, don't think for 5 seconds. If they're able to finish their mission of genocide and ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, they won't spin the block. Don't think they won't spin the block, basically, is what I'm saying. They will. They'll come back. And that training facility is going to serve as a place for them to be able to take us out. And they can take us out quietly because we already know that a lot of people in the country that we are in do not care for us because of our black skin. They might act like they're cool with us and they might pretend to be cool with us, but we still see to this day people using, the Karens of the world using a person's skin and frantically screaming and calling the cops, and the cops showing up, and things are still happening. We're still seeing lynchings to this day. They just don't call them lynchings anymore because they've tried to retire that word because they don't want people to use that word because it's been associated with the worst of America. So I really urge people to think for themselves, first of all. I always say this to people. I'm like, think for yourself. Think more critically. Read a book. You call yourself a Pan-African or a Black nationalist, yet you're not doing any of the things that Pan-Africanists or Black nationalists do. They stand up for other people. Yes, you should stand up for your people. Absolutely. That's what Black love is. We should be standing with and for each other. But at the same time, if we see that our brother, and listen, Palestinians have brown skin. That's why the world won't collectively care about them. That's why people won't stop and say anything, because to them, Black people are disposable. Brown people are disposable. I think in reality, the world has kind of like a fetish for Black trauma. You know, you see how many movies have been made about Black trauma, about the things we've gone through. I think we're even tired of saying, it's like, okay, only in this world that we live in can we be watching in front of our faces Black and brown kids being beaten, tortured, killed, blown to pieces, and people can still turn around and post their chicken, post their shoes, post be at a basketball, like just be moving on with their life. Have you ever seen them do that with white people? Even when you watch movies about the Holocaust, which I guess is their genocide, their one genocide, um, we've never seen, you won't see blood and guts and all that stuff. There's a reason why. This is a time for us to finally say, okay, you know what? We need to stand together. We need to stand with them because their problem is our problem. And once they feel like they've done and they're done with that problem, they're going to spin the block on us. So I'll say this again, and I can't say this enough. I can't stress this enough. Even if you feel like it's not your problem, or, the Palestinians didn't stand up with us, or where were they? They couldn't even leave their country. They have no airport. They're literally stuck behind bars. In 2018, the end of 2018, I visited occupied Palestine. And I remember because of what was going on, it was restrictions on where I could stay. So of course I had to stay in the occupied Palestine part. But my purpose for my trip was to go to Jerusalem and to go to Bethlehem, to go to the Dead Sea and see that stuff, and, to be there. And I remember when being in Bethlehem, being closer to Palestine, I felt so safe. I really did. I didn't feel like danger was lurking anywhere. I didn't feel like anything was, I felt safe there. And I remember having to be in Tel Aviv because that's where I was staying, and seeing somebody walk down the street with a rifle. And I was like, whoa, where am I? And, seeing the soldiers walking around. And I didn't feel safe. I really didn't. I was by myself at that. So I just, that's part of the black and brown love I'm talking about. The feeling of, even though I probably wasn't safe, I felt safe when I was closer to my people. I'm going to call them my people. They're our people. So I urge you, black and brown people, the Palestinians are our people. We need to stand up and stand with them. We need to be paying attention. And I probably went too far on this part of the topic, so I'm sorry. But I saw that and it enraged me. It enraged me to no end. Really, it did. And so to end this, I'm going to share something that Angela Davis once said. Again, Black nationalist. Palestine is a moral litmus test for all of us. It really is. And if you um, have a moment, I've shared an article on my website. It's called For the Love of Humanity. I would love for you to read it. This is a test for us, guys. And, I really don't want us to mess this one up. I already don't like group tests. So don't make me mad. Anyway, you know what to do. I'm on TikTok, CXC. Also, for my business page, I'm on Instagram, CXC underscore the podcast. YouTube, Spotify, every place where all that stuff. I'm not even gonna go down the rabbit hole of that. Anyway, as always, I'm gonna start ending all of my episodes with Free Palestine. I love you, Ma.